Coming up, the Reds and the Cardinals win with late inning drama. This is Locked On Game to Game, MLB.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. Local experts join us to recap everything from yesterday in Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. We thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The Red Sox came nearly all the way back in the ninth inning on Tuesday, but instead Boston finished a run short of the Reds. Our Locked On Reds host gives us the details after Cincinnati escaped with a win.
Man, is it hot in here, or was that just the Reds about to blow a 6-run lead in one inning? My goodness, that was way too close for comfort. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast. And Jose Barrero hit a grand slam. Will Benson had 3 hits, and Ben Lively threw 5 2/3 shutout innings at Fenway. And the Reds won by 1 run. They entered the 9th inning up 9-3, and Eduardo Salazar gave up 5 runs, and we needed Alexis Diaz to close this game. This is probably a game that Alexis Diaz figured he wasn't needed, but man, for like 8 innings, this seemed just like the easiest win that the Reds have ever had at Fenway. And all of a sudden, they come back. That was a little bit too close. This team is never going to be boring, right? The Reds are never going to be boring.
The Phillies managed just 2 hits and got shut out by the Mets on Tuesday. Locked On Phillies tells us what slowed down Phillies offense.
The Philadelphia Phillies get shut out by the New York Mets in the opening game of their 3-game series. Connor Thomas, your host of Locked On Phillies. I mean, the offense was just non-existent tonight. You kind of have to tip your cap to Senga, who started for the Mets, and that ghost forkball he throws is unbelievable. Like, that's a plus level pitch. Super hard to face, but in Major League Baseball, you're going to face guys with good stuff. You got to find a way to do more than what the Phillies did tonight offensively. Ranger Suarez had a great start for the Phillies. That's encouraging, I guess, especially considering his first 2 starts of the year were pretty darn rough. Now it seems like he's starting to settle in a little bit. So, I mean, that's good, but it doesn't matter when the offense just doesn't do anything whatsoever. Yeah, I don't know with this team. The inconsistencies continue. They get a good start, no offense. Well, maybe tomorrow they'll put it all together. We'll talk about it more on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.
The Cardinals got 2 late runs to beat their rivals, the Royals, yesterday. Our Locked On Cardinals host has more after St. Louis's win at home.
The Lizard King Miles Mikolas spins another gem as the Cardinals earn a split in the I-70 series against the Kansas City Royals. Hey, it's JD from Locked On Cardinals, and the team had the right guy on the mound to wrap up this 19 games and 19 days stretch. And it was Miles Mikolas. He goes out there and does exactly what the team needed him to do. He throws 8 shutout innings. He punches out 10, earns his 4th victory of the season. Now, the offense, which has been a real problem recently, still a no-show tonight, but it was nice to see Nolan Arenado come through with that RBI double. He's one of your star players. You need him to come through in the clutch. They go 12-7. Over this stretch, which isn't too shabby, and they wrap up the month of May at 15-13, which I know doesn't sound great, but when you consider they were 10-19 the previous month, at least it's a step in the right direction. For the latest updates and info, be sure to keep it Locked On Cardinals.
A pair of first-inning homers put the Diamondbacks up 3 in the first inning against the Rockies, and Arizona never looked back after that. Our Locked On hosts have more on that NL West battle.
Rock on Rockies fans, Paul Holden here from the Locked On Rockies podcast. Another loss to the Arizona Diamondbacks, a team that continues to show that there are issues for them. The Rockies simply don't have enough answers to these issues. They keep causing problems for the Rockies. The Rockies have only gotten 1 win against the Diamondbacks this season so far, and they just keep tagging the Rockies for big flies, hard hits, and just overall good baseball. I can't sit here and say that I'm enough that how surprised I am about this Diamondbacks team. It's a Rockies team that's been better this month of May, but this Arizona team continues to look like the next young upstart thing in the NL West, a team that I wish the Rockies were a lot more like. We'll be breaking all things Rockies down on the Locked On Rockies podcast.
Coming up, the Orioles and the White Sox win with early offense. This is Locked On Game to Game, MLB. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA Finals are here, and if you are new to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up because you get a no-sweat first bet of up to $2,500. That's $2,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. There's no better place for you to bet on all of this playoff action except for FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. You get that no-sweat first bet of up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. The Orioles scored the first 7 runs against the Guardians on Tuesday. Then they coasted their way to victory. Locked On hosts with both teams have more after Baltimore's victory.
Let me tell you, it is never easy for these Baltimore Orioles. Even when they lead 8-1 in the 6th inning, they still have to use their high leverage relievers, but the Orioles hold on for an 8-5 victory over the Guardians on Tuesday night. Connor Newcomb here, host of Locked On Orioles. The O's even the series at 1 game apiece. Kyle Gibson, pretty good. Offense, great early. They got 8 runs off Cal Quantrill, just bludgeoned the Cleveland starter. But then the offense didn't score much down the stretch, and the Orioles bullpen was horrendous. They let Cleveland into the game. Guardians had the tying run at the plate in the 8th inning. Somehow, in this game, it looked like a blowout. But the Orioles have never beaten a team by more than 5 runs this year. It's only happened 3 times. They only play close games. They do it again, but they get the win on Tuesday, and I'll recap it all coming up on Wednesday's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
The Cleveland Guardians lose. Listen, the offense actually showed up today. Everyone reached base except for Steven Kwan. Everyone reached base twice except for Jose Ramirez, Steven Kwan, and Mike Zunino. Some positive signs offensively. Some positive signs out of the bullpen. But Quantrill not his best starting. That's 2 weak starts for him in a row. But he's 5 out of 11 in quality starts this year. He has been a reliable veteran. He's not going anywhere, as much as people may not want to hear that. He is a guy that Tito counts on, and I think that matters. Cleveland loses this one. They've still won 3 out of 5, which is a nice little run. If they can get the win tomorrow, which they should, Shane Bieber versus Austin Voth should favor them. Though Voth does not walk anyone, and no one hits him hard, which is not a good combination. High spin rate guy. So watch that in tomorrow's game. Hopefully Cleveland can win 2 series in a row, which has that happened this year? I don't think so. Just not a good baseball team right now, unfortunately.
The White Sox took a 5-run 4th inning and used it to beat the Angels in Chicago last night. Locked On hosts with both teams have more as both teams try to stay relevant in their divisions.
The Chicago White Sox beat the Los Angeles Angels 7-3 on the South Side Tuesday night. Hey, I'm Nick Morawski from Locked On White Sox. Sox starter Lucas Giolito did not have very good stuff, but the offense helped him out in a big way. Sox got a home run from Romy Gonzalez. It was his 3rd in as many games. 2 doubles from Luis Robert Jr. Andrew Vaughn with 2 doubles. He had 3 ribbies. Sox go for the series win on Wednesday afternoon with Lance Lynn on the mound. For more, check out the Locked On White Sox podcast.
What do you get when you put out a soft-tossing left-hander against a Chicago White Sox team that hits lefties really well? You get a 5-run inning, and that's exactly what the Chicago White Sox did to our Halos. What's going on, everybody? John Frisch, one half of Locked On Angels. Tyler Anderson lost a consecutive streak of 5 games with 3 runs or less. In this one, he went 4 innings pitched with 6 runs. It was absolutely brutal. Now, on the bright side, you could see that Taylor Ward might be coming around again. He got a leadoff home run against Lucas Giolito. Fun fact, his 2nd career leadoff home run, the first against Lucas Giolito. He also had a double in this one as well. And Ohtani hit a moonshot. Unfortunately, the 3 runs scored by Ward, Urshela, and Ohtani were not enough to keep the Angels in the lead. Mike and I are going to talk about this one on Locked On Angels. We hope you'll join us.
The Astros overcame some early drama and an ejection to beat the Twins at home last night. Our Locked On hosts with both teams break down the final from Houston.
Hey there, H-Town Wheelhouse here with Locked On Astros, and the Astros defeat the Twins 5-1 today. Brandon Belak gets his 2nd win on the season. Dusty Baker climbs up the all-time leaderboard, actually ties Joe McCarthy with 2,125 wins. Alex Bregman homers, Chas McCormick homers. Jose Abreu narrowly misses a grand slam, but gets a sac fly, gets an RBI. So they score 5 runs. They do enough. The bullpen comes in. Stanek comes in late. Matan came in, and then Montero came in and had an excellent outing. They were short and they were thin on the bullpen, but the guys that came in did the job. So they win. They get 5 hits. They get 5 runs. They get a victory, and they keep pace because the Rangers won again today against the Tigers. So stay tuned into Locked On Astros. Remember, we're your team every day. Check out our latest episode and just find us wherever you get your social media or your podcast. Go Stros.
What's up, everybody? Brandon Ward here with another Locked On Twins breathless post-game minute as your Twins fall 5-1 to the Astros in a game they never really seemed all that into. A couple homers by Chas McCormick and Alex Bregman kind of tell the story in the second inning. Joe Ryan just a little bit shaky, and those things are going to happen. 2 home runs, 5 earned in 4 innings. ERA still only 2.77, and these are the kind of hiccups that you might have, but ultimately, this is the defending World Series champion Astros, and so it's not really that shameful to have lost a game to them. Cole Sands has a really nice outing, 48 pitches, 2 1/3 innings with 4 strikeouts, and Giovanni Moran gets 2 outs on 1 pitch, which is good work if you can get it. The story of the night, though, Brandon Bielak's changeup was absolutely phenomenal. We'll have a full breakdown of this one and look to the series finale. This is Locked On.
That's a wrap for this edition of Locked On Game to Game MLB. We thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On MLB and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.